Hi, I'm Miss Hadi from Olympian High School, and today I'm going to be making a video to support ancient world history students in Ms. Rogerson's class and my class who are learning about the Romans and their economy and trade. Just a quick little fun fact, I took students on a trip once down this road. So we went to Ephesus, which is in Turkey, and this was a super cool city that was a bustling city in the time of the Romans. So I love this chapter. I love history. I hope you guys are enjoying the course. Let's try to think about historical thinking skills like cause and effect, changing continuity, similarities and differences, and identifying historical context as we look at this information. So I'm going to use the textbook, and I want you to realize that there's a cause and effect relationship in the very first sentence here. So the fact that the Romans are expanding, that means they're taking over more territories and imposing or placing their imperial control, so expanding their empire, is going to be the cause, part of the reason for economic and social changes in the Mediterranean basin around that entire area. So the Romans are building roads, and the fact that they have this long peace, the Pax Romana, right, the Roman peace that lasted about 200 years, are going to be things that contribute to increased trade. Cities are going to be affected by this trade, and new cities will be founded. So these are effects. And then we'll talk about some of the social changes that take place in another video. In this video, we're looking specifically at this section on trade and urbanization. And one of the important things that you need to know is that underlying or beneath all of these dramatic changes is the foundation of agricultural production, surplus meaning extra agricultural production. Of course, agriculture is like the food that they're making. It's the domesticity of animals and also the production of crops and food. So this is part of the reason that they're able to expand trade. So instead of planting food just for using immediately, what the Romans are doing is they're building large farms called latifundia, and they're specializing in the different regions. That means they're focusing on the things that that particular region can grow well and cheaply, and then they're importing and exporting things that are grown in another region. So let's say one area makes, let's pretend, grain very cheaply, and another area can specialize in like nuts, and then you just trade across those regions versus trying to grow grain and nuts and maybe doing both inefficiently. This way you save, you kind of save money, and it helps to stimulate trade. So this is telling you about the grain from latifundia that is being transported across the Roman roads, North Africa, Egypt, Sicily, producing that grain, and then that grain making its way to the large cities and on ships to other parts of the Roman Empire. So this commercial agriculture is going to be part of the reason why other areas can become specialists, economic specialization, that's producing other things and then contributing to the empire and integrating the empire. That means bringing it together. So in this particular paragraph, they're telling you what the different regions of the Roman Empire concentrated on, because remember, the Romans took over so much. So for example, it's telling you Greece focused on olives and grapevines, Syria on fruits, nuts, wool, Gaul, which is France, essentially, grain, copper, some grapevine, Spain, high quality olive oil, wine, horses, precious metals, and it just tells you about some of the evidence that they've discovered that supports these discoveries. So because you have specialized production of agricultural commodities and manufactured goods, and you have Roman roads, and you have the Roman peace, you're going to see quite a lot of Roman trade taking place over both sea lanes and over land. Now here's a sentence that often trips students up. This is not to be taken literally. So in this sentence, they essentially say that the Mediterranean Sea became a Roman lake. It's not saying that it literally actually became a lake. They're saying that because the Romans were able to subdue pirates here and control the lake and protect the merchants here, that it was essentially under Roman control. So we need to understand that this book is beautifully written. It's got some figurative language, and not everything is to be taken literally, yeah? So just like I say, if I say, for example, I ran a ton this morning, I ran 13.2 miles today, that's not actually a ton. A ton is something like 2,000 pounds, right? So it's just like a phrase, it's an expression. So be careful. I've had in the past students tell me, didn't the sea become a lake? And I'm like, no. So make sure you understand this part. And then in the Mediterranean area, you see all kinds of people traveling, administrators, tax collectors, soldiers, merchants. So there's integration of different people from different parts of the empire. And even in places that were fairly remote, that means far away from like the Roman capital, people were using high quality goods that they had acquired from a different part of the empire. So this was these goods were not just for the rich. It's affecting and impacting life in all parts of the Roman Empire. This next section is about the city of Rome, and what we'll learn is cities, and especially the city of Rome, benefited from this trade and integration. So a lot of what we call urban developments. So something like 10,000 statues, 700 pools, 500 fountains. I've been to Rome. It's beautiful. The construction of all these different things, temples, bathhouses, public buildings, stadiums, and aqueducts. Really make sure you write down aqueducts as you take your notes right now on an inspect chart or however you're taking notes. Aqueducts are bringing clean water from far away into the cities. And this construction is being made possible through the invention of concrete that was invented by Roman engineers during the Republican era when it was a republic. So you'll see a picture of an aqueduct on the next page. Now, all of this construction also has an effect. It's going to serve to employ many people in the Roman Empire, including migrants who are going to flood into the capital. So we see shopkeepers, artisans, merchants, and bankers proliferating. That means increasing rapidly in number. And then we also see migrants from the countryside coming. And here you can see some of the statues and things that are here in Rome. It's also a harbor. Okay, so some of these migrants are not being very successful. They're working in low-wage jobs as laborers, construction workers, or servants, but a few of them were able to do very well, especially if they moved to Rome. And that urban growth and development wasn't just limited to Rome. We see it in other parts of the Roman Empire that the Romans took over. Now, some parts it's not surprising, like Greece and Syria, because in the past they've been urban areas, but other parts are surprising. Spain, Gaul, which I'll remind you again is France, and Britain also started to see greater levels of economic development, social development. And then that makes life in the city really exciting because people have access to delicacies and luxuries that they didn't have access to before this integration and trade that the Romans spurred. For example, oysters from Britain and wool cloaks from France or Gaul, Syrian nuts. So these are all things that people in the cities, this is the aqueduct, people in the cities had access to, which makes life really nice, as well as, of course, all the pools and the gymnasiums. You have underground sewers carrying away wastewater, so it's not a dirty city. And then you have circuses, stadiums, and amphitheaters. Now, circuses are not the same as we would think of circuses today. These were oval structures with tracks for chariot races. Chariot races were really popular during the Roman Empire. One of the most famous ones was the Circus Maximus in Rome, which held about 250,000 spectators. Now, it was fun to go to these stadiums, but the kind of entertainment people enjoyed there would be considered inhumane by our standards today. For example, it was like fights to the death between gladiators or between gladiators and wild animals. I've been to the Roman Coliseum. You should go if you can at some point in your life. The Roman Coliseum was this beautiful stadium that was built so precisely that not only could you hold these other kinds of entertainment, but you could actually flood it with water and have like a fake mock naval battle. So this is just a little bit about the economic development that was taking place during Roman times. And in the next video, I'll tell you about some of the social changes that took place.